This video is the expert level Google Forms training, or Jedi Master level as we like to call it in the workshop that I do. Here we're going to access and explore add-ons for Forms. Some of the add-ons you use directly in Forms. A couple others will be add-ons for Google Sheets. So let's begin. The first one I want to talk about is called Form Limiter. I find this one to be very helpful if I'm making an assignment and I don't want students to access it after a certain date or a certain time. You could also have it work so that it stops accepting new responses after X number of forms submitted, and there's lots of other options. So I'm going to exit out of this presentation and you're going to see me go into an empty Google form. So here we are, empty Google form. Your add-ons are going to be up here at the top. You'll see it very clearly labeled add-ons. And then you can get add-ons within Google Forms by clicking on Get Add-ons. And I've got some already. You can see this. When you click Get Add-ons, you're able to search and find what it is you're looking for. Our district domain has some of these already here that are suggested. I think ours are set for education, possibly. I'm not fully confident on that. I'm not sure. But anyway, regardless, these are all the add-ons that we have available to us to add on to Google Forms. When you pick one, you click on it and it'll give you the option. Mine says manage because I already have it, but it'll give you the option to add to Forms. So that's what you click to get it. Once it's there, most of the time, the first time you use it, you might have to accept something, like accept some usage rights and things of that nature. But Form Limiter is a nice one. It's really easy to use. You go to Form Limiter, you click Set Limit. A pop-up panel comes up on the right, and you're able to select what kind of limit you want, a date and time, max number, or destination, spreadsheet, cell value. So you could do quite a bit with that last one if you're good with spreadsheets. You could have something trigger it shutting off the form. When you have your, let's say I want to stop this at, let's say 2. So I'm only allowing 2 responses. Then we can shut it off. If we want to email, you can click on this and type in a message, and that'll tell the people trying to take the form that it's been shut off. So for example, if you set it to a time and you wanted students to have to submit their homework, let's say by that time, you can shut it off and say you're past the deadline or something like that. It'll email the form owner as well when the submissions are closed if you checkbox that. So students receive that message, and you will get an email when it's full as well. So 2 different things going on there. Hit save and enable, and you're off. You're all set. So I'm going to set that. So now my form will only allow 2 responses. All right, so that's Form Limiter. The next add-on I want to go through is called Form Notifications. This is another one for Google Forms. Basically, it allows emails to go out to those who've taken the form and entered submissions, and also the person who created the form. So if you make a form that's not going to be used for a little while and you want to receive a message when it is used, this is the way to go. So I'm going to exit out of the presentation and show you this in a new form. So here we are in our form that I just used in the last example. Here I'm going to go to add-ons, and again, get the add-on if you need to, if you don't already have it. We're going to form notifications. We're going to configure notifications. So real easy to use, just like the last one, pop up in the right hand side. That seems to be how most of the add-ons for forms tend to behave. You could do notify me or notify respondents, whichever you prefer. I'll say I want to email every time I get 1 response. Obviously, you probably don't necessarily want that, but if you have a class of 32, perhaps you want to get a notification once you've received 32 forms, that kind of thing. You could also do a notify respondents. You can type in your message, so thank you for filling out the form, and that would send that out. I'm not going to set that one on right now, but very simple to use, very easy. When you're all done, just hit save. And now your form will be sending emails as it reaches those requirements that you set. So there you go. That is Form Notifications, another great useful add-on. This add-on will make all of you math, science type teachers thrilled to death. GMath for forms. GMath also exists for docs, and I believe it exists for sheets as well, but I could be wrong there. GMath is a great add-on for inserting mathematical equations. You can insert graphs, you can insert statistics into Google Forms. If you're interested, check out their YouTube video. It's phenomenal. This is another training video for using GMath. Someone much more better than myself and probably much more interesting to listen to. But anyway, here we go over to our untitled form, and I'll show you an example of how GMath works. So let's make a couple questions. First of all, I'll call this sample for video. And we'll have a question quickly here. What is your name? That'll be a text-based question. We'll require it. And then we'll add an item. Well, now we're ready to use our GMath. So now, instead of adding an item, we're going to go to add-ons, and we're going to go to GMath, which of course I've added through Get Add-ons, and we're going to create a math expression. So there's lots of options that you can choose here. I'll go through a couple of them. The rest you'll have to explore on your own. So here we have question title. We'll say adding fractions. I don't need any help text. I think it's going to be pretty self-explanatory. Here in the LaTeX area, LaTeX is the sort of language that they're using to create the mathematical symbols. You could type it all in yourself if you have knowledge of this, and it shows you a preview of what it looks like below it. I'm not going to do that. Instead, I'm going to use these pre-built formatting expressions. So for fractions, A over B, that's the example I'm going to start with. So we're going to go right here, and actually before I do this, I'm going to delete what they had there. So we're going to go fraction, and instead of A over B, because I'm going to be dealing with an actual, think of this as like a middle school question, we'll say what is 1/2. So now you notice my preview has changed to 1/2. We're going to do plus, and now we're going to do another fraction. So I could go back down there again, or I could also use the LaTeX now that I see what it looks like, frac, and then let's do 1/2 plus, let's say 3/4. Whoops. And yeah, you got to make sure you're following the specific formatting of the language to make it appear correctly. So there we go, 1/2 plus 3/4. We'll go ahead and we'll insert that. And now watch what happens. Over here in our form, we have two things, and they are separate things. Added in as an image with our title is adding fractions, and then there is 1/2 plus 3/4. And below that, because Google Forms and GMath add-on cannot really create its own question, it had to do two things. It had to insert an image, and directly below that, it inserted a text-based question. So if we go ahead and we edit that text-based question, and we say add the fractions above, and type your answer as a decimal. All right, that sounds pretty good, I think. Sorry, math teachers, if I didn't do anything correctly there. We'll require that, and we'll hit done. All right, and now we have a problem. Okay, if we wanted to view what this looks like as a live form so far, what is your name? Adding fractions, add the fractions above. So that looks really nice. If we wanted to resize this, we certainly could, especially if you have a student maybe with special needs. One thing you could always do is change your image, click on the image, and you can make it a lot bigger if you so choose. If you don't want it to be as fuzzy when you expand it, notice it gets a little blurry. That's a simple switch, and that's actually back over here under the optional part. You could have made it bigger than 50 pixels. I kept it 50 pixels by default. If you make it 100, it'll naturally be twice as large. So that's up to you to decide and do as needed. Anyway, I think that looks pretty good as is, so we'll just leave it like that. So that's adding a mathematical type of question. The other thing you can do with GMath is you could insert a graph. So let's create a graph, and we'll just title this slope question. And I'm going to skip the help text again. Here's a function. So whatever function I put in there is what it's going to graph. So let's go with the function 2x plus 1. So if we're going to use that as our graph, it's all typed into the box. Then I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to see that I can change my zoom region. I can change how much it's going up by in the X and the Y direction. And I can then do a preview my graph. And so there it is. That's what it's going to look like. It looks pretty good. I've ran into a little bit of trouble depending on the scale you use and these numbers sort of overlapping on each other. If you go with decimals, it could get kind of ugly. So the only downfall I've seen so far with this GMath and this graph feature is you kind of got to stick to some easy numbers. Like if these were 800, 700, 600, etc., they would kind of overlap and it wouldn't look very nice on the graph. There's probably some way to fix that, probably playing with your graph regions. But I do know that no matter what you choose, it does number every single line. I haven't figured out yet how to not number every single line. So anyway, I'm happy with this. It looks good. I click insert just as I did before with the fractions example. After a few minutes of thinking, now we have a slope question. So here's our graph. Just like before, it's an image. I can stretch it out if I want to. I can also go down here and below it, it's a text-based answer question. So instead of answer for the slope, I'm going to go with find the slope of the graph above. And since I know it's a whole number, I'm not going to give any further instructions. I'll just require it. Click done. And again, if I want to preview what this now all looks like, view my live form. And here's a form that you could send to students already with 3 questions: name, add the fractions, slope. Did not take me any longer than I would say 5 minutes to do. And of course, I was giving an example to all of you guys. So very cool tool, GMath add-on for forms. All right, and our next add-on is Flubaroo. And teachers, if you're a teacher, this is going to blow your mind. I think you're going to love it. Automatically grade quizzes. So if you use Forms to create a quiz, you can also have it automatically graded for you. And why shouldn't you? We're in the technology world. You put in the time in advance, it should help you. That is the purpose of technology. So here we go. Walking through Flubaroo is pretty easy. Now, one thing you do need to know, this is the Google Sheets add-on. It's not a Google Forms add-on. So if you're looking to add Flubaroo, do it in Google Sheets, not Google Forms. And so I'll show you that in just a minute where you can get that add-on. So here we are in the form that we had just made. All right, we got our 3 questions. I'm checkboxing some options. I want to collect the respondent's email address. This is really important. So in our domain, the student's username is their email address. So if we auto collect that, we don't need to create a question, what is your email address? The reason why it's so important we have the email address is because that is actually going to be used by Flubaroo later if we want it to send out their grades. So they'll get an email that tells them how they did on the quiz. Very, very powerful little tool. So I'm going to have that on. I'm also only going to allow one person to take this quiz per login. All right, well, the first thing we need to do for Flubaroo is get an answer key. The way we do that is we take it ourselves. So if you click on View Live Form, okay, this is what it looks like to a student or to anyone taking it, but it's also a live form, so you can fill it out on the screen. What is your name? It's Mike. Adding fractions. There's the answer. Slope. Okay, English teachers, I assure you, I'm putting in the correct answers right now. If you're a math teacher, all right, you should love this part. This is great, right? Click submit. All right, so now I have answers submitted. So if I go back to my form here, boom, form, we got responses. Let's view our responses. So this will open up that Google Sheet. All right, that's where all our answers for forms are always stored. They're stored in a sheet. And so I got a timestamp. Notice there's my email address, name, and the answers I submitted. Okay, awesome. Well, the next thing we got to do is we got to get a student to take this in order for you to see how Flubaroo works. So I'm going to cheat a little bit. I copied that. Okay. I have a student actually who we have his account is a test account. So this is going to let me take the form as this fake student. So we'll just name Joe Blow our fake student. And our fake student's not very good at adding fractions, so he'll say 1.5. and he's really good at slope. He takes 10 seconds to figure out the answer there, and he submits. Okay, so he's taken our quiz. All right, so we go back to our form, and guess what? You guessed it. There are the two submissions. There's my answer key. All right, Fluebro is not on yet. Fluebro is not active. You're like, well, that's not graded. Well, that's because we haven't used it yet. All right, so add-ons. This is where you go for Google Sheet add-ons. Make sure you get Fluebro right there as needed. I have it already. I'll enable Fluebro for this sheet. So that's step one. Takes a few seconds. You get pop-up. All right, Fluebro is good to go. All right, it works for a second longer. Now if we go back to add-ons and go back to Fluebro, now we have options. We can grade this thing. We can do some advanced options, enable auto grade, all this kind of stuff. So let's do that. Let's do enable auto grade. Click on that. Before enabling auto grade, you must first set up your grading and email settings. So click OK. That's what we'll do. And first we got to do is identify what kind of questions are they. So Fluebro is pretty good at figuring this thing out on its own, but you probably need to double check it. So the first two columns are these in order. We got username, we got what is your name, B and C. There they are, B and C. So yes, those are identifying our students. And then these are the graded. So a point each, 2 questions. Continue. Next, we got to tell it which is the answer key. So my submission was the answer key. I'll select that. If you have more than, I just have one student taking this. So you might have a list of 32 students in there. Hopefully not more than 32, but I know how it is. So click continue. And now you can also set it to email grades. So do we want to email them? Sure, let's email them. Username, if I look over here, that's the email address. So that's all set. If I had a question on my form, what's your email address? You could also pick that one. Okay, because I collected and set up usernames, remember I said that was important for emailing. Now I'm able to email. I could include the answers with the questions. Sure, let's do that. And then message to the students. This would be just generic. Every student receives the message. Good job on the quiz today. We all like exclamation points, so there we go. Continue. And now the magic happens. Fluebro is grading. Fluebro is emailing. All those things are occurring. Some recent submissions have not yet been graded. Would you like to grade them first? Oh, yes, most certainly. And voila. Okay, so look what just happened. We have auto grading enabled, so that little pop-up message is there. Don't make any changes, it says, because auto grading will get messed up. So we're not going to change the form. We're not going to change the initial sheet. But notice down here we have 2 tabs now. We have our original tab. That's the one that we're not going to change anymore. We could have more students add in, and that would be fine. The form would get graded automatically. And then we also have the grading page would also get automatically updated. So we have this one student that took the quiz. They got 1 point because remember I messed up the fractions question. Notice the fractions questions highlighted in orange. And then I have their score. They got 1 total point, 50%, and that's certainly showing up. If I had 32 students, I would get this data in here for all of them. In the end, at the top, I would see a summary, what was the average number of points, how many submissions were counted, etc. And the number of low scoring questions, that would be how many orange questions there are in my sheet. So not only do I have it graded, I have a visual for data just by looking for the orange questions. I know which ones my students struggled with, and just absolutely powerful and phenomenal. And remember that we set up an automatic email. Let's go back to that student's email account. All right. Here's your grade. They got the email. And check this out. Big, bright, could not be confused. Red and green information. You got it right, you got it wrong. Here's my good job on the quiz today comment. So that's Fluebro. I think it's amazing. I hope you like it. If you have questions, please do not hesitate to send them my way. This has been advanced training. I have another add-on here, but we're not going to go through it today. AutoCred is pretty complicated, but it's also awesome. I'm going to have to probably make its own video because there's lots of steps to it. So that is my last add-on for you with Forms. There are other form add-ons out there. I've explored some of them. Explore them on your own, see which ones you like. And again, thank you. If you have questions, email me. I'll see you around. And I'd also like to thank Miss Danielle Mary Felis, who allowed me to borrow her Jedi theme and her slides. I've altered them with her permission, but she's an awesome Google certified trainer, and got to give her credit where credit is due. So thank you very much. Have a good one.